Hello everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. I've just witnessed Bolton Wanderers 1, Ipswich Town 1, excuse me. I'm bloody freezing, I'm up north. Bolton lining up, Alnick in goal, Little at right back, Robinson left back, DeVite and Wheater were the centre halves. Derek and Mick McCarthy favourite Cole Henry sat in midfield with Buckley, Amiobi and Vela off. The big guy up front, Gary Medine. So exactly the same kind of setup as Ipswich. Bart back in goal, and Mick saying something about him not leaving to the end of the season. I hope that is true. Or rather, I'll rephrase that, still being here at the end of the season. I offer right back, Chambers centre back. He moved across to the left to allow in Carter Vickers, the new player on loan from Spurs, who we have seen play against us for Sheffield United. Knudsen moves back over to left back, more comfortable there, and obviously Kenlock misses out. Skews and Connolly sitting in midfield with Selina on the left. Waghorn moves to the right this week, and McGoldrick off the front, off Garner. So all this debate I hear on Radio Suffolk every week about McGoldrick shouldn't be played out on the right. Well, here he is. Off the front, and a very, very bad start for Ipswich. They nearly conceded a goal after literally 10 seconds. Big booming ball forward, just didn't get dealt with, and Vela kind of manages to get through. Should have scored, but everyone's just too cold, and Bart manages to save it. Poor old Amiobi gets a bit of a knock to the head, and he's down for a few minutes straight after that. The aforementioned Amiobi struggles around a bit groggily for a few minutes, but he floats across from Medine, who's well up above Carter Vickers, and heads over. Buckley comes in off the left, drives right-footed well over the top. Amiobi, we love him on the podcast, brilliantly goes into the box and kicks his own standing foot. Even the Bolton fans were laughing at that one. Nice fun moment. Bolton have the ball in the net, but players have been stopped beforehand. Skews with a kind of clever draws a foul in the box. As you can probably tell from my comments, for the first 15 minutes, Ipswich were really bad, and Mick was particularly upset with the pressing. I mean, there wasn't any passing at all, but they could have at least got the pressing right, and they didn't. Really bad start by Ipswich. Amiobi comes in off the right on 21. Good low shot this one. Bart gathers it up well. Good feet from Buckley here to get past Iorfa. His shot kind of gets a sting taken out of it, gets deflected on the way through. Easy enough stop for Bart. On 24 minutes, Ipswich actually passed the ball around for the first time in the game and gained some territory forward. There are not many words to describe how bad they were in the first half. Free kick for Wanderers in a good spot. Medine into the wall. Derek follows it up. His shot's blocked. Medine goes through the back of Skews. He takes a yellow card, and this actually looks like the tackle that's taken Skews out of the game, because he's going to go off at half time. Ipswich force a corner, God forbid. McGoldrick wins it at the near post, kind of a bit of a scuffle, and back out at the far. And the first chance for Ipswich here, the second corner, Waghorn takes it. Chambers gets a weird, he shoots basically with his right thigh, he kind of like generates it forward. It's a good save by Alnick. Iorfa then passes it to Waghorn. He's got someone closing him right down, snatches at the shot right-footed, puts it over. Medine with a difficult headed chance on 43 minutes. The first half was utter drivel. It was total crap. Both teams were to blame. They both played a similar style with a big guy up front, and there was no passing. It was littered with mistakes. And I remember talking about the Preston game. It was similar to that, and then people start getting brought down by it. It was filth. It was dreadful. Horrible first half. I would say Bolton had the better of it. Ipswich were useless in the first half. Really bad. I think I've made that point now, haven't I? Skews goes out, presumably injured by the tackle by Medine. So first chance for Ipswich fans to see Gleeson. He comes in and sits in Skews' position in centre midfield. Waghorn with a free kick on 50. McGoldrick stoops to flick it on. Actually quite a good flick. No one reads it. They've all gone into the middle and it goes to the back post. Gleeson to McGoldrick to Waghorn. He runs at DeVite at the back. Good last ditch tackle by him dealt with Waghorn quite well in that situation. And Bolton then go straight up the other end and take the lead. This is a pretty decent goal. So they're coming forward down the left. The fullback Robinson is forward. Well, he got forward when he could. He puts a cross in, and it's a vital flick. I think it's Vela. He just gets a little flick on the cross as it goes in. Medine reads the flick. The Ipswich defenders do not. So Medine is free. He takes the goal really well because he's got one touch to do it. We know Bart's a good goalkeeper. He watches it over, and he has a really, really good finish. So good goal by Medine. Takes that well, and at least that stings Ipswich into something. Hopefully. It was strange because Bolton, I thought, were actually a bit better in the first half, but they scored slightly against the run in the second. But I mean, the game needed some because it was so poor. Medine, I didn't think he was that great in the first game. He's obviously having a good season now, and he's very much the focal point of that Bolton team. So good for him to get the goal. Ball driven into McGoldrick. He looked quite offside. Brilliant chest control from McGoldrick. Kind of kills it. He's in on the left foot. Doesn't have enough power to beat Anik. Vela corner, free header for Derek, but that's blocked out. A bit worrying one there. Marias comes in for Buckley. He's going to play on the left, but cut in on his right foot. Lovely deep cross from him. And Medine is one of those ones where he's got the two guys with him. They don't particularly challenge for the ball, but they do enough to put him off. He heads it into the side netting. Garner and Waghorn nearly actually score the Route 1 goal of the century in the second half. So it's booted forward. I forget which way around it is, but one flicks it onto the other, and then it's kind of volleyed up without the ball touching the ground, and Garner smashes the volley over. That would have been a hell of a goal, but hey, it didn't happen. Iorfa gets a little bit cross after he doesn't get foul given for him, and takes a yellow for then his retaliation on Carl Henry. Free kick for Medine. This is a good strike and a good save. He works this quite well. Great effort from Marais on 76. So you can see Bolton are on top here. Ball comes across to him. He strokes it with his right foot, kind of curls it, just goes past the post. Bart looked beaten with that one, didn't miss by much. And then just incredibly out of character from being really quite rubbish for most of the game. On 81 minutes, Ipswich get the equaliser, and it's actually a very, very good goal. It's a build-up from the right, and I'm not a rugby fan, but it's a bit like a rugby goal. They move it across one, they move it across one, they move it across one. McGoldrick gets it. McGoldrick did not have a good game, but he had the quality here. He plays a 1-2 with Waghorn, who's got ahead of him. McGoldrick is in. He does a cross shot, left-footed again. We know he doesn't have the strongest left foot power-wise in his shots. Goes across, and it looks like it might be going in anyway, but everyone's charging in. Garner puts it in on the goal line, and it's 1-1 with literally the only real bit of quality team football. There were like individual bits of quality that Ipswich played in the whole game. You can't really call it a smash and grab because neither side was particularly amazing, but if you're a Bolton fan, you think they didn't have to do very much for that point today. So good goal from Ipswich. I'll have to count up the passes when I watch the replay, but please do not watch that and think that they played free-flowing football today. So good moment. Nice to see Garner's on a pretty decent scoring one, although Waghorn still without the goals today. Selina comes in for Sears. Amiobi goes out, and Sears comes in for Selina. Noon comes in for Amiobi. I'm reading it the wrong way around. And then right at the very, very end, 89 minutes and 58 seconds, they've got a nice big clock counting at the Macron. I offer to McGoldrick, slid into Waghorn on the left foot. It's a brilliant shot. He tries to curl it for the top corner, but with power, and it smashes the inside of the post. So Ipswich could have nicked it very, very close to the winner, right at the end of the game there. I'm going to attempt to turn my page in my book, which very frustratingly won't move, and I bet there's nothing written on the other page. Medine goes off and Wilbraham goes on, and Hyam goes on for Connolly. So look, 1-1. I don't want to be ungracious to Bolton, but my analysis of this is that both teams played exactly the same system, exactly the same style. You have Medine up front for one, Garner up front for the other, and the idea is the ball's going to go forward. You're not going to pass through midfield. The guy up front's going to, be kind of the lightning rod for the whole team, and then you're hopefully going to get your three quality players. Those were the two systems, and we've seen this when Ipswich come up against I don't know, an Ian Holloway team or something, that you do tend to get a pretty awful spectacle. The first half was just pathetic. It was really, really bad. Both teams to blame. What I would say is that I think Ipswich have got slightly better players than Bolton, but I don't want to say Bolton are just a slightly worse version of Ipswich, because I think they were the better side today. But I think they're attempting to do the same thing with, and given their financial problems they've had and the fact that they were League One last year, they're trying to do the same thing as Ipswich with slightly worse players. So I can see how Bolton pick up results, and I can see how it might be a bit turgid. Ipswich just were not at it. The pressing wasn't there in the first half. I don't know what the problem was. Could it be that you've got Waghorn, who's a better presser than McGoldrick, moved out to the right-hand side, so the actual start of the press is a little bit slower? I don't particularly know, but just no real passing, no real quality in the first half at all. And it was going to be a scrap. I predicted a scrappy 1-1, and it was a scrappy 1-1. No real quality on show. In terms of star men, you would say that the whole of the Bolton team is set up for Medine. He obviously got the goal and he took his moment really well. Robinson tried to get forward and obviously was pretty instrumental in the goal. Amiobi, as his usual erratic self. Back two was solid. I guess it's normally Beavers there. Henry makes a difference in the middle. I suppose you'd say Medine was their star guy. He made the difference, missed the free kick, quite close with that one, obviously got the goal. Ipswich were really, really bad. I'm struggling to find a star guy. In the first half, Selina and Connolly, Everton and Man City players, both showed the most quality on the ball, but no one really, really played well. It's hard for me to name a star guy for Ipswich, so I'm not going to do it. What Ipswich fans will be interested in is how did Carter Vickers and how did Gleeson get on. Carter Vickers is fairly short and stocky for a centre half. Chambers made way so he could play right back. What impressed me about him is how talkative he was and how he kind of settled in that regard. It would be fascinating to hear his actual opinion on the difference between Ipswich, not so well functioning team, and Sheffield United, who he played for earlier in the year. But obviously he's a professional and he probably would not be very quick in coming forward with that view. Gleeson, we've had this before when Diagoraga came last year. Gleeson has more passes than Skews and is a bit more of a slick footballer, but we've had this with Skews before, is that you don't get many players who are actually more reliable with their ball retention than Skews. So often this happens and you see a player come in and you think, oh, he might add a bit more, but then you actually realise, Skews kind of such sensible use of the ball. I can't see Skews and Gleeson ever playing together if Connolly's there, because he doesn't really deserve in any universe to be dropped. But Gleeson's got some good passes. Perhaps what you might see, like maybe for example against Wolves, you might see Gleeson actually in a more 4-3-3 and he'll play ahead or with Skews and Connolly, which will improve our passing, I have to say. So that might be something to look out for, that you might lose one of those three guys off the front and it becomes more a 4-3-3 than a 4-2-3-1. Anyway, let me know your thoughts if you're at the game. Bolton fans, have you got enough to stay up? Will you dig out enough results playing that system? Am I right that you're a kind of bit of a budget version of doing what Ipswich are doing given the financial constraints? I don't mean to be disrespectful. Ipswich, well, just how bad were we today? It was really, really, really poor. Pleased to get the result, but they could have played a hell of a lot better. And if they play like that against Wolves next week, Wolves I've seen play three times this season, they will be demolished. But it normally works in Ipswich's favour when they actually come up against a passing team as opposed to a team who's going to play against them. I think get in, take the point today, get out. Nice for Ghana to be on the score sheet, and hopefully next week Spencer will be back. Maybe Webster might be a bit closer. Eddie Amy's going to play under 23s, so it can only get better. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. I can see a cinema, I can see a Mexican and an Italian. So I'm now going to enjoy a meal and a movie, and it's going to be a hell of a lot more entertaining than that football match. Goodbye.